Hello, everyone. If this is your first time joining us at Loveology Podcast, my name is Ashley, and I am joined by my hubby, Jason.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We normally have an intro, but we felt like our intro was just too happy for what we were about to talk about. So, yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it. And of course, I'm sure we normally talk about relationships, and like I said, we like to have a lot of fun on the show. But today is we're talking about something difficult.
Yes.
And so I'm sure you all know by now that a man named George Floyd, a black man, was killed by a police officer who kept his knee on this man's neck for almost 9 minutes. George was face down on the ground and he was handcuffed, and there was also 3 other police officers holding him down.
It was 2 others.
Two
So it was
others?
total of 3. One was on his ankle, one was on his stomach or side, and one was on his neck.
Right. So
And then another one was standing, kind of keeping people away.
Yeah. So a horrible video, horrible thing to watch. After that, we've seen riots, and some call them riots, some call them protests. Some is calling it a national rebellion, right? So I don't really know what to call it. I just know that basically our community is expressing the same sentiment of we're tired and we really don't know what to do. And when I say we, Jason and I are black people.
Yes.
So, yes.
And I just want to add, if you're listening to us right now, thank you for joining us. But listen to this entire message. Please do not listen just a few minutes and then you can just take it and run with it. If you're going to listen to our message, listen to the entire message. Until you be able to do so, please do not comment or try to misconstrue what we're trying to put out from our perspective.
Exactly, absolutely. So yeah, we just had to take some time to talk about it. Like I said, this is not something that we normally talk about, but this is clearly affecting us on a very personal level. So leading up to this, of course, we've been dealing with the COVID-19, and we've been getting the news back that it's affecting the black community way more. I wasn't surprised by that. For some people, that's a surprise, but when you understand the dynamics of America, then there's a saying where if America catches a cold, we catch pneumonia.
Yeah,
or
Black
the
America
flu.
catch the flu, right?
Yeah, so that is very true, and this is just another example. So we've just been dealing with that, the stressors that the virus has been bringing us, such as losing jobs. Minorities are losing their jobs at a higher rate.
And I just wanted to touch on this, and from another perspective is, we're just not getting the right help, you know, and we're gonna dive into it
as to the reasons why we're dying from COVID more.
Right, because I can't even understand why. I saw a report that 100% of the deaths in St. Louis are African American. How is that possible?
Craziness.
You see what I'm saying? So it's an issue. It's a larger issue at hand.
Right.
But go for it. Somebody said the virus is not racist. It's the people that's taking care of you that are racist.
Well, yeah, and then it's just the conditions that we live in because of racism. So, not having access to healthcare, right? To quality healthcare, not being the essential workers on the front line, so having more chances of getting infected, basically because you're the essential workers,
right?
What was another reason? So there's a few reasons of why.
Yeah, and so I was speaking with an individual that I know, not particular in this COVID-19 situation, but prior to. The mother of their child, she was sick. The mother of the child, she passed away because she didn't have enough money to pay for medical expenses. She didn't have money to pay for the copay, right? And so, that blew my mind. How could somebody out here die because of a $35 copay? So when we talk about this, you got to understand different people's perspective, right? Because I just I didn't fathom that, right? And other people with in a different pay ranges can't fathom that, right? Because everybody, you would think, oh, everybody got access to $25 or $35, but no, some people don't.
Right. Absolutely. That is such a good point and such a sad story. But yeah. So yeah, and so then, we over the last few weeks, we just basically been getting a lot of images. Breonna Taylor was the 26-year-old EMT that passed away.
Yes.
Ahmaud Arbery was killed while he was jogging.
Yes.
So it's just been a lot happening over these last few months and weeks, and so and just overall, right?
Yeah.
So this is just the what is it, the phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back, right? So when
you mean overall, you're just talking about just your life.
Yeah, just life overall. And so I think we're going to talk about this a little bit as far as, just we as a people, we really are dealing with like chronic grief and stress. Like
Correct.
Every time this happens and we see these videos on the news, this affects us like a lot. Like
Deeply.
We crying, and because, if you were able to stomach watching that video of him dying, it's just extremely traumatizing. And it was traumatizing to me to know that, to hear him call out for his mom.
His mom is deceased.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so as a mother of a little black beautiful boy who's probably gonna grow up to look a lot, he's probably gonna have the same skin tone, and he's probably gonna be tall and just like this guy, right? Yeah. And of
I
course,
can't even think like that. That's crazy.
As when he called out for his mama, that was like the first thing that popped into my head, and I was done after that. Like, to hear this grown man call for his mother. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, it just affects us. It just affects us very deeply, and we are definitely grieving. And black people have just been traumatized since the day we stepped foot in this country.
Right.
Before we stepped foot, right? Like they traumatized us to bring us over here. So basically, our entire life is just kind of like a grieving.
Right.
thing.
And if you're the ones that believe that we was already here, which that's a thought as well, you still was traumatized because when they got here, they
exactly
they took over, and there it is. Because how would they know how to work the land?
Right.
But whatever, we're not gonna get into that one.
Right. So we are constantly grieving also at the fact that our country just does not seem to see us as equals.
Right.
Our ancestors helped build this country. I mean, pretty much built it,
right.
With free labor, and we still don't have access to equitable education. We are dealing with, mass incarceration of our men and women.
And going to the education, I remember going to school, and I would have, now my brother, he's 5 years older than me, right? Mm-hmm. And, if you're getting some information, we see how quickly information changes, right? And I don't think things was changing at a rapid, I think it's probably around the same pace that things was changing then that they're changing now, right? I think I can kind of say that, right? But I would have a textbook with my brother's name. When you get your textbook, you sign your name in the book. And I would get a textbook. Now, mind you, I'm 5 years younger than him. And I would get a textbook with his name in there. Yeah. Like, what type of education is that?
Yeah. When is this book going to change? Because we know a lot of information has changed.
Clearly it's changed.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote an essay about some of the things that I did not learn in high school, and it wasn't because I applied myself. I was very, nerd,
because I
didn't have the opportunity. I did apply myself, and I just didn't get this information. And had I gotten it, then I would have learned it.
You would have blown it out the water.
When I went to college, I was like, whoa. When I started, speaking to other people and hearing what they learned in school versus what I learned in school, it just did not match up.
Night and day.
Night and day. I mean, just something as simple as, thankfully, we were able to dissect a fetal pig, right? But, other people was telling me, and, in their biology courses, they dissected crickets and all sorts of
types of
stuff,
stuff.
right?
Frogs.
Yeah,
Right.
all sorts of stuff. So I mean, I'm definitely happy for the one thing that we got to do, but I'm just it was just I quickly saw that they had more opportunities to learn than I did.
Right.
So that's another thing. We still dealing with a lot of poverty in our community, and the list just goes on. And it's not it's not because we're not applying ourselves, right? Some of the people that I know that don't make a lot of money are definitely just the hardest working people in the world. Never take off, you know what I mean?
Right.
Don't go on vacation, working multiple jobs, hardest working people in the world. So unfortunately, some people still think that black people are lazy or something. It's like, no, we are very, very hard working. Are we making living wages? Maybe that's the issue. Maybe they have to work multiple jobs, and that's the issue.
Right.
So no, I've been around nothing but the most hardest working people.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, we just get treated differently. So even take rioting, for example.
Right.
I saw this video of pictures of white guys, probably frat guys in college, who have flipped over cars and lit them on fire because their team won or lost. Either reason, they will burn a car, but they're just out there having a good time, and nobody probably. That's what people say, right?
Right.
So, so I don't know. Definitely, as black people, we know that there's like certain things that we can't do.
Can't do that. Yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah, there's certain things that we can't do that they can get away with, but we cannot, right? Because we're black. So, I mean, that's just one small example. But even, recently, these guys and women who were, I think it was mostly men, though, that had the rifles, because they wanted to, I don't know, go back to work.
They wanted to get their haircuts. They want to. They saying they couldn't breathe because of the mask.
Yeah, and I just think that
it's tough to breathe in. Yeah.
So let some
they want to go to the beach.
Let some black people walk up with rifles and see what happens. Like that's just another
Black
thing.
Panther Party.
Right.
They had then we became a terrorist organization.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't see any of that happen to them. So anyways,
they was hollering in their faces.
Yeah.
But if you supposedly have the coronavirus, you're basically, if you hollering at a police face and the virus is out there, right, then you're basically weaponizing your voice. You're hollering. You're literally in their face yelling.
Right.
Literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, come on, but nothing happened.
Right. So they managed to treat these people with the respect that they deserve, and it's not about that, they don't deserve it. It's just that we deserve it too. So they, they managed not to hurt anybody severely or anything like that. And these people have weapons on them.
Right.
So, and that's basically what it comes down to as far as police brutality goes. It's just these black men are dying. They're unarmed. They're face down, and they're still dying.
Yeah.
And a white person can come out with a gun, and somehow they're able to arrest them without hurting them or killing them.
Even the ones, you had the individual Dylan, the guy that shot up the people at the church.
Yes.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Now he killed people, literally killed them, but they arrested him safely, gave him water, gave him Burger King. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, what is this?
Right.
What message are you putting out there?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we kind of had an idea because Jason, you said you saw a lot of white people on Twitter asking, what were they asking?
Well, yeah, it was pretty awesome to see. It's a lot of white people, not just white people, it was other races as well. But they was asking people on Twitter, because when you're on Twitter, you ask for a lot of podcast recommendations. People kind of ask Twitter stuff, and so a lot of these people, and I was seeing mostly white people, was asking, "Hey, could I get a podcast on the black?" The black way of life, growing up in America. They just want more information about how or what's going on, because they don't see it from our perspective. But they want to get an understanding. They want to learn.
Right.
And I think that's awesome. Right. And I think if you have white friends or other friends that are from a different demographic. I think is, and if they ask you, right, certain questions because they're curious, they want to know. I think it's your responsibility to let them know as a black person, right? Yeah, some people say what some people say. Well, they need to go Google it. Or They need to do their own research, right? But what's the best research when if you're getting it directly from that person?
Yes.
Right. So just like our African American history, a lot of it was oral. Right.
Yes.
So, you getting it directly from your ancestors, your grandparents, you're getting it directly from them, not from a book that could be edited and have a different point of view that may not line up with where you're coming from.
Yes.
Right. And you can't ask the book a question. You can't ask a video a question. Well, yeah, you said that, but I really don't fully understand it. Could you explain it further? You can't say that to a book,
right? But
you can say that to a person,
yeah.
So they can get the perfect. We can get exactly what your perspective is.
Yes, and then we'll go into this a little bit later, but it's just human connection too. Human connection is a big deal, right? So everything that you just said, right? But then also adding on top of that, just looking in another human being's eyes and having a human connection, I think makes all the difference as well.
Right.
So I just wanted to take a moment for us to share some personal experiences, just in case some non-black listeners, which I'm sure we have plenty, that's listening. Hello.
Hey.
And some non-black listeners are, listening and they want to, just learn a little bit more. They're curious and they want to learn what our personal experiences are. Of course, we can't speak for all black people. Right. We can only speak for our personal experience.
And like you said, this is from our perspective.
Right.
And I just wanted to, throw that out there again. It's not about what's right or what's wrong. For me, it's about, this is our truth, right? This is our experience. This is our truth. So you take a number 9, right? If you draw a number 9, if you put somebody at the top of that number 9 and you put somebody at the bottom of that number 9 and you ask that person, hey, at the top, if you ask that person at the bottom of that 9, hey, what number is that in front of you? They're going to say it's a number 9, right? That's their perspective. But if you ask that person at the top of the number 9 that's looking down on it, what number is that? They're going to say it's a number 6. Who's right or who's wrong? Both of them right.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But that's their perspective, right? So we're giving you our perspective and we're speaking from our truth.
Right. So I think we're going to speak mostly concerning our experiences with police officers.
Yes.
So Jason, would you like to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I can go first. So I had a young black man living in the South, so I have a lot of them, right? So I can't speak on a lot of them. I ain't gonna speak on all of them, but I can speak on some. I've routinely, it's part of the weekend that it's most likely you're gonna get pulled over at least once a month, and you're gonna get harassed by a cop, and they're going to want to search your vehicle, and I tell them no. I simply tell them no. I have nothing. I have no reason for you to search it, and they'll pull out the dogs and go through all of that. So, but a specific situation, I was in the military, and I was going to the military base. Now, I didn't have my license on me, which is not a crime, right? But I didn't have a license on me, but I had my military ID, which is official government ID. So I was driving down the interstate, going back to the base, and I wasn't speeding or anything, but I had a Trailblazer. People that knew, I had a black Trailblazer with black tint, and I had black rims. So obviously, not even obviously, but somebody, he probably thought I was a black guy, which they incorrect, right? I was younger at the time, so don't do that now. I don't do that now, but if that's my dream car, should I have to switch up how I should drive if that's my dream car? But anywho, moving on. So the guy pulled me over, asked me for my license and registration. I had my registration, but I did not have my license. But I gave him my military ID, said I was in the military, blah, 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 blah. So typically, because I got pulled over a lot, typically they will go to the car, run your license, run your registration, and all that good stuff. And I've gotten pulled over before with state troopers that I didn't have a license for whatever reason. When you're younger, you might not have a wallet. It's a lot of different reasons you're young, right? And so typically they'll go back and run your license and boom, they'll come back and say whatever, write your ticket, warning, whatever.
Right.
But in this particular situation, he said he thought that I could be a possibly flight risk, right? A possible, which is not against the law, that's true, but it's, and so he pulled me out the car. And he asked me to get out the car. We got out the car. He didn't like physically pull me out. We got out the car, but what bothered me, he put handcuffs on me. And mind you, we're on an interstate, we're on a freeway, and there's a lot of people driving by. So he had the handcuffs on me behind my back, and we was standing there, and that's where he wanted to talk on the radio, to check on my license. And I'm like, okay, either I'm in the back of the cop car or leave me in my vehicle. Why have me outside of the vehicle with handcuffs on for people to see and assume that this black guy with these big rims or whatever is breaking the law?
Right.
And that bothered me. But what could I do with that? Could I file a complaint? Yeah, but he didn't break the law. He didn't do it. But at the end of the day, it made me feel like he was trying to parade that I was a bad guy. This bad black guy is out here doing something. I got him. But once he checked my license and everything checked back, he let me go.
Right.
So, that was one of my situations. What you got?
Well, I actually never had a bad experience with a police officer personally, but one of my first boyfriends, my first real boyfriend that I dated, I was, dating him, and I got in his car a couple of times, and I noticed that his, all his seats were, had holes in them, like somebody had slashed it, right? And I didn't ask him about it, but finally, after we had been dating a while, actually, I just thought his car was raggedy or something. I don't know. But then after I've been dating him a while, I finally asked him about it, and he told me that basically some police officers had stopped him, and I guess he didn't know his rights as well as you knew yours. And they wanted to search his car, and they did, but they also took a razor or a knife and cut all of the seats looking for drugs inside of his seats. They didn't find anything. And I can't remember because that was so long ago, but I think that he just didn't know, and I didn't know, we were so young, that they should have replaced this, or they should have fixed this.
Right.
So he was still riding around with slashed seats that police officers had slashed, looking for drugs that they did not find. So he never got it fixed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just like that should have been like a report filed, and my car needs to get fixed. These police officers totally cut my seats, you know?
And he's a teenager, he didn't do anything.
Right.
Right. So what do you think how does that going to affect that teenager as he grows up into a man, what he thinks about police officers?
Not very good.
You see what I'm saying?
Not trusting.
So, it's a lot of reasons, but it's like, man, it's some stuff going on that people don't even know about, right? Even some black people don't know about what our younger black people are going through because they're not opening up and they're not telling everything.
Because he didn't tell me. I mean, I had to ask him, what is this?
And you his girlfriend.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So when you think about why these people are acting like that or whatever, slow down.
Right.
Don't just automatically cast judgment off of something that you've seen on TV or in the movies, right? You have to we're people, and you have to get to know each individual person, and I'm not gonna get too far deep because we're actually a very diverse people. Right. You go to Africa in some country, a lot of countries, they're very
a lot of
diverse.
Countries. Remember, there's a lot of countries in Africa.
Right. For the most part, it's a lot of countries. So that should tell you something right there.
Right.
And inside those countries, there's still a lot of diverse people.
Different languages, different cultures.
Yes.
Inside of this Africa is the continent.
Right.
Right.
So we're but you got to get to know us.
Right.
You got to get to know each individual. Do not lump us up in one pot.
Right.
And at the same time, we can't lump you all in one pot because we can't say because this white officer did this to me. I can't say, well, all white people are racist.
Right. Exactly.
I can't say that.
Right.
Because that's not true.
Right.
Because I know some white people's heart, and I know some that are awesome individuals, right? So we have to we have to get to know each other on a personal level.
Yeah.
If a black person did something bad to you, that black person did something bad at that time. Mm-hmm. Right. So don't put it on me because I'm your coworker because you had a black person robbed you.
Right.
It wasn't me.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. Very well said. And like I said before, this is a relationship podcast. And so just like in thinking about black women and black men, dating each other and being married to each other and, having these different experiences, it's a different, we basically deal with like a different layer in our relationships, a different dynamic of things that maybe other people don't have to deal with. I think other minorities, experience racism too, so they deal with this too. Mm-hmm. But I think, everybody I think it's safe to say that like the violence against us is way more than anything else, anybody else. So just, the things that we have to deal with mentally, self-esteem, that can also be taking a toll, on your relationship in different ways. Right. So racism, just affects us in a lot of ways, not just a few ways. So basically, I wanted to get to the point that, why did all this happen? And, I feel that is racism. And the root of all of this stuff is it all boils down to racism. And I feel like everything that we go through in this country, all of the problems that black people are having, it just boils down to that. And at the root of racism.
There we go. I was about to say, even taking a step further, but go for it.
Yeah, at the root of racism is the lack of love. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel.
And what's the opposite of love?
Hate.
Basically.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So it's just hate.
It's a struggle between good and evil. Mm-hmm. Right? And good doesn't have a color.
Right.
And evil doesn't have a color. Right?
Because there can be other minority groups that are racist against black people.
For sure.
So
I mean, you take the movie, what was it, Rwanda? What happened in Africa? That was their own people, and it was a genocide against their own people.
Yep.
So it's evil and good, right? But right now we're talking about America. We're talking about the evilness of what's going on in America, and right now America is ran by white people. Mm-hmm. That's just what it is.
They're the majority. Yes. In the power, and it has the power.
And people are just tired of it.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm just going to say racism is defined as prejudice, discrimination, and antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Racism is just basically in the DNA of America. Mm-hmm. And, some people may be saying, well, I'm not racist, but you may have some unconscious bias.
Racist tendencies.
Yeah, because I think that sometimes when some of these cops do these things, it's like, it may not be overtly racist. It's a very unconscious bias that they have against black men that they find black men threatening. Mm-hmm. It's a threat to them. And they're more quicker to react or use excessive force. And we'll talk about a little bit about what researchers are finding out why that could be the case, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, at the birth of this country, black people were treated so badly that in order to rationalize how they were treating us, they said that we weren't people.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were things. So that was our base. Like that's our beginning in this country, not, as a people, of course. So this is a random thought, but that's why it's important to teach our children about African culture as well, right. Stuff that predates slavery, there were black queens and,
yes.
all of that other stuff, right?
Yes.
It's important
to look it up. The information is there.
Or books. Jason loves YouTube.
I love YouTube. I love YouTube. That's what
I love YouTube too. So
yeah. and just want to just say this again, we want everybody to know that we're not perfect, right? Me and Ashley, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. And we don't know everything, right? But, we learning stuff, and we got to all have to learn together, right? And some things may not sound right to you on your side, and, some things may sound right. But at the end of the day, again, this is how we feel. This is our perspective. This is our truth.
Right. Absolutely. So back to the research that I was speaking about, I saw an interesting article on New Republic, newrepublic.com, and it was talking about hate is a powerful emotion that lodges itself deep within a person's psyche.
Mm.
I'm just going to read from the site. A growing body of social and psychological research suggests that once racial biases and hateful ideologies embed themselves in a person's brain, they can be difficult, if not impossible, to counteract. Scientists now recognize that we are influenced by both our genes and our environments. The forces of nature and nurture work in tandem. Studies show that growing up around people who espouse racist views or even simply in an environment that lacks diversity can contribute significantly to how a person interprets race. Mm-hmm. Advanced MRI scans have revealed that a network of brain regions associated with decision making and emotional responses come into play when people assess someone's race. One key area is the amygdala. Is that how you say that?
That sounds about right.
Which plays a role in controlling emotions, fear, and survival instincts like the fight or flight response. Mm-hmm. When triggered by something considered a threat, neurotransmitters are released into the amygdala. This process kicks the body into alert to protect itself. In scientific studies, white people have displayed increased amygdala activation in response to seeing black faces. These findings suggest that the study participants have developed negative stereotypes about African Americans and their brains, therefore categorize black people as threatening. People are unconsciously afraid of us, basically.
And you know, they did a study with children. They do that. They start off as a child. So even they had a video, you can look it up. The little girl is being asked which doll is a good doll and which doll is a bad doll. Mm-hmm. Had the white doll, she said the white doll was a good doll. Had the black doll, she said the black doll was a bad doll. Mm-hmm. So it's being programmed in us unconsciously, and we don't even know it.
So why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it being programmed?
Yes. Why? Like,
it's racism. I believe that it's some of our cartoons or some of our things that we show our children have that underlying racism in it. Yeah. And sometimes it could be unconscious. You know, some of the writers or editors could be doing it unconsciously and just not knowing. Or I believe sometimes that they could be doing it on purpose, just to kind of mess up the minds of the children. Yeah. Right.
Well, according to this article, definitely the lack of diversity in your environment, they're saying that that's one of the reasons, just even having a lack of diversity. And then I just think that because of the way, like, I know people don't like it when you take everything back to slavery, but if you've gone to like a couples relationship therapist, they always start with, oh, can you tell me about the beginning? Like, how did you guys meet? Right. So you have to know the beginning in order to know like what happened.
Exactly.
And we started off being less than human. Mm-hmm. So of course this stuff, we didn't snap our fingers and everybody's mind was changed that they saw us as equal automatically.
Right. No.
They still wanted us to be slaves. You know, there was a lot of good white people that didn't. Right. And that was never okay with it. And
they helped change slavery.
Exactly. They helped in the slavery.
And that's what some people need to understand that.
Right.
That white people did help in slavery. Right. So we didn't do it on our own. Unlike some countries like Haiti, they did it on their own. They had a slave revolt. Right. So, but that's not what happened overall. We put this in laws and it got changed.
Absolutely. So, that's really important to remember. And but the white people that were not happy about losing their slaves and they still saw us as property, they did not want to give us equal rights. And that stuff continues to be passed down from generation to generation. It really not that long ago when you really think about it.
Wasn't that long ago at all.
It's not that long ago. So it just keeps getting passed down.
Right. And so you got to understand, you can't solve a problem that you don't fully understand. Right. And so the problem is most people understand problems from their own perspective. Right. And in order to solve a problem that you have to get all sides of the story. You know they always say it's 3 sides to a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's your side and it's my side and it's the truth.
Right.
Right. So it's the same thing with this whole racism stuff. You're seeing it from your perspective.
Right.
Take the time. Okay, you understand your perspective. Take the time to understand the other person's perspective so we can get this problem solved together.
Yeah, and and you basically have to put yourself in their shoes and empathize with them
Try
and really
to
listen. And
right.
so how do we do this? Like, we actually have to get to know each other. That's the first thing, right? And like spend time with each other. So yeah, sometimes I have definitely, when things just seem to keep happening in a cycle, like we just, for years now we've been getting these mass viral videos of black men being murdered by cops.
Black women too.
And black women, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so it kind of goes back to this racism issue to me of, will we ever really, how can we really get rid of this? Like, we need to make the policies, we need to make the changes, policy wise and all this other stuff. But to me, it just keeps boiling down to this. This is the root. So how do we, where do we go from here and how do we fix this? There was a man named Marcus Garvey. A lot of you may know who that is. He believed that we would never get there. Like, we would never, how do we get them to see us as equals?
Right.
Coming from a place of not being human. Right.
Right.
Like, that's how it started. He believed that America would never accept us as equals and argued that all black people in the world should return back to the homeland in Africa, which we should be free, also free of white colonial rule. But interesting thing that I didn't know until recently was that after slavery and a little bit before slavery, when some of the slaves were being freed, leaving the South and going to the North, America was they took some land in Africa, is known as Liberia now. And that was the spot that they were sending any freed slaves, or after slavery was abolished, then they sent slaves there if they wanted to go. Now, a lot of people decided to stay because I understand thinking of no, this is our country. I was born here. I've worked this land. Right. I've built this country. This is my country. One of those people that definitely was against black people leaving was Frederick Douglass, and he believed that black people should stay and fight for equality and that America was our home. But, I just wonder, did they have any idea how long it was going to take? Right. But, they suffered way more than we did.
Right.
So even if it is taking us a long time, it's probably still, they went through a lot more than we did, of course. Right. So I think understanding that can also help people stay motivated of we're not there yet, but I don't know, maybe we still could get there.
Right.
But sometimes I question whether or not we can actually, rise to the level of for people to see us as equal.
You know what? And just to kind of give a little fast fact on Liberia, it has pretty much is like the American flag.
Yeah.
But it only has 1 star instead of 50 stars.
Right.
And their main language is English.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, because if they were slaves and they were, free slaves, they're speaking English.
Right.
Because they came from America. So that country is very Americanized.
But at the same time, it's one of the poorest countries in Africa.
Yeah.
So, it sucks that, it's like, man, we got a place to go. But at the same time, it's like, ain't nobody gonna help you now. You got to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, and they had to. I don't know if it was the best land,
But it may be poor in our eyes, coming from our perspective, but it may not be poor for them. For them, it may be awesome. Living on the land or however they living, it might be awesome.
Listen, the pandemic has showed us, just came to light all of the issues that America has. It just brought it all out.
Exactly.
I think I saw somebody say something about America is a third world country with a Gucci belt or something like that. We just look sparkly. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, we have a lot of a lot of luxuries in America
For sure.
that other countries do not have.
So so this just popped in my head. Here's something. So when we talk about America and it's being ran by white people and all that good stuff, and will racism ever get out of America? Well, it can. America is a changing system, right? Mm-hmm. It's checks and balances in place. We have 3 branches of the government, but how we do that, and I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about it later, but we got to elect our people into these positions.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. Whether it's our people, they're black, white, whatever, just need to elect good people. Now, how can you get good people in these places? Well, I think we need to do an extensive mandatory personality test to see what type of personality that, we're putting in office.
Yeah, I had that thought even about police officers, because I'm just like, is there any, is it hard to become a police officer? You know what I mean? And should there be, some more requirements before? I know they go through an extensive training.
It's like 8 weeks, but you're 8 weeks upholding that. And like I said, it's my perspective. If you feel like, your training was longer than others, because I was in the military, our training was shorter compared to maybe Marines. So this is not a blanket statement, right? But from what I'm understanding, it's a short amount of time to uphold a law, like you're upholding laws, right? For the citizens. But you take a lawyer, it takes them like 8 years to understand the law, right? So how are you going to uphold a law and you only went through like a short amount of time compared to what it takes to actually learn and understand the law?
Yeah, because I'm just wondering, like, it's just such a, it's just so important to be able to do that job well, is to really have a heart for service and the heart for serving your community. You're a peace officer, But yeah, that's a really good point about the training. So I just wanted to get back to what's going on today, because we're still fighting this long and grueling fight for true equality. And so I know a lot of people are upset about rioting and burning down buildings, and I don't really think that sitting around discussing whether or not that's right or wrong is like good at this very moment.
Right.
And now Jason recently showed me some videos of people that's on the ground protesting peacefully, and there's non-black people that are spray painting buildings and vandalizing, and the black protesters are telling them, hey, please don't do that, because they're going to blame us. That's not what this is about.
Right.
We're peacefully protesting and you're knocking windows out of a building.
Right. And I saw specifically they was spray painting Black Lives Matter, or BLM. And it's like, no, we're not asking you to do that. Don't do that.
Right.
Like, we're doing a peaceful protest, but these people all dressed up in black, wearing backpacks, pay attention to that, because that means they come from somewhere else, and they are inciting this stuff. They're throwing gas on this stuff, and we're doing it peacefully. Here's the thing, not saying that all black people are peacefully protesting. Okay, we understand that,
right?
But there are some reports and video footage of people that are not black that are vandalizing and in the name of Black Lives Matter, and when they're confronted, they run off.
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing? There was an actual officer. They found out he was an officer, and his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, the one that said, hey, I know who that is. That's my mask. What is he doing? And there was another girl and her friend would spray paint Black Lives Matter, and they're like, no, don't do that. No, that's not what it's about.
Right.
So you got to pay attention that our emotions can push us to a certain direction, and they throwing gas on the fire. But that needs to be known.
Right.
That needs to be said. That needs to be shared. That needs to be talked about. Opposed to, oh, this is getting out of control. I'm sorry for George Floyd, but those black people need to stop tearing up stuff, tearing down our cities. And it's not all black people. Now, of course, if somebody, you reap what you sow at the end of the day. I'm all about the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. I wouldn't want somebody to vandalize my business, right? But that's me, right? That's my perspective. But at the same time, you got to pay attention to what's going on. And if somebody is inciting, if somebody's breaking the window and they go in there and grabbing clothes, then most likely some other people going to do it too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Follow the leader. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we definitely wanted to mention that because that's not right. And if you're out there truly there to help the movement, then you need to be doing what the movement is asking you to do.
Right.
So it's not about you. It's about this cause that we're marching for.
But
right?
we have to be clear with this. It is some people that are doing it purposely to blame it on the black people. So they have their own agenda too. So you got to watch these individuals. It's still KKK is still out there.
Yeah.
You know, these white supremacist groups are still out there. And how can you tell them from another when everybody's wearing masks and dressed up in black,
right,
and saying no justice for Floyd? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, how can you tell the difference? So you got to pay attention to what's going on. And I say pull those phones out and go live and make sure if you're doing stuff peacefully, make sure you get those phones and record, go live. I know y'all doing it, but put those people on camera that's doing that looting and stuff. You know, that's starting it off. Yeah. That's who you want to pay attention to. Who's starting it?
Right. Absolutely.
And who's looting, but who's starting this? You got to pay attention.
Yeah. So even within our movement or our, our work to push the movement forward, I should say, we still dealing with these sort of things, right? Even within that. So that's kind of depressing, but.
And even if it is, even in some cases, there are black people starting it, right? That some people are starting this situation. But again, we are diverse people.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I agree with what they're doing. Right.
Right.
So don't blanket approach me. We still need to talk on the subject at hand of why they're doing it in the first place.
This is the most important. Like, this is the point. The point is that it is happening. And so I would think that all of us just need to be directing our attention to why is it happening? What is happening right now?
What was the cause to create that type of reaction?
Exactly. And, I just think that I just recently learned this phrase of racial trauma. And I believe that, that's it. Right. We basically have PTSD from being hated and oppressed in America. And so, we just need to figure out what the strategies are for us to, gain the life that we want in this country.
And even with some our names of our shows, you got Everybody Loves Raymond, right? But you got Everybody Hates Chris. You see what I'm saying? So you got to pay attention to those things. That's subliminal, but it's putting hate on a black person, and we're just tired of it. Tired of it.
And so I believe, again, going back to racism, the only way to really make lasting change is to change the hearts and the minds of the people. And like I was saying with this article that I was reading, where they were saying that, just sometimes the lack of diversity can cause a lot of problems, right? To develop negative stereotypes. So I'm going to read a little bit more of this article. It says another region of the brain involved the processing of race is a prefrontal cortex, often referred to as the seat of executive function. It is here that the moral behavior is regulated and controlled. Individuals who believe in equality and fairness, or who are aware of their own biases, seem to be exercising a kind of self-control evident in the prefrontal cortex over their behavior, keeping prejudice associations in check when they are thinking about or interacting with people of different races. Prejudice and biases are rooted in long-standing, chronic, perpetual processes within the culture. If an individual has grown up in a racist culture, fighting against the current of hatred requires enormous mental determination. And so they were interviewing a doctor, and he said this about like the fact that we need to spend more time together. It can't just be put us all in school and we segregate and never talk to each other.
Right.
That can actually reinforce biases. But researchers have found that having meaningful friendships, beloved mentors, or bonds with different people over long periods of time can diminish those differences we see in the brain based on race. So I don't know if just like simply spending more time together and being friends with the opposite race is the, answer. Right. But it seems like it's worth a shot.
I think it helps.
For sure.
Because we grew up in a small town, Brinkley, Arkansas, right? We grew up in a small town. It was pretty much 50-50, right? In rural America, right?
Right.
And, yes, was there racist people there? Yes, right? Was there, but at the same time, we formed relationships with, all different types of races, black and white people. And we had genuine relationships. We still have these genuine relationships to this day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wanted to tell a quick story about when I was 15 years old. I went to a math and science camp at a college in a predominantly white town. And while I was there was a white guy that told a black guy that when he first arrived at the camp, he talked to him the white guy told this black guy this at the end of the camp, right? And then when he told him when he first arrived at the camp, he was scared of him because he had actually never been around a black guy. And he thought that all black men were the way that he seen on TV. And at that time, my teenage years, it was like the movies were like gangbanging, right? So he thought that he was a gangbanger. So that's the first time that I actually heard a white person admit that. And I was, like I said, like 15, where he really grew up in a town that didn't have black people, and he's not interacting with black people. So we're still like the other, you know what I mean? Right. We're not people, and it's just like, in actuality, we're just people. And if you get to know us, then you will see that
we got some similarities. It's actually kind of cool. Have fun. We tell jokes.
Right.
We're smart,
Yeah.
You can learn from us.
Right.
And we can learn from you.
I don't know if that guy has some racist like tendencies, but as far as like this idea that when white people see black people is something triggers that they're, frightened. If your only messages about black men and your only images about black men was that he's a gangbanger and he has a gun, and you never actually met and interacted with a black man in person,
right?
Then you probably will be scared, actually.
Same exact way with terrorists, right? When we start talking about terrorists, we talk about the Iraqi culture, talk about them. And when they come over here, when you see them out and about, or they have their religious wrap on, you automatically say, oh, what's a terrorist?
Right.
And that's not true.
Right.
So if you're doing that, you're falling to the same category.
Absolutely.
So that's what we talk about, like racial tendencies. Or you feel like, well, I'm not racist, but when you do stuff like that and you like, man, I'm not getting on that plane because he on here, but he's a person.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, racism it could be in all of us, right? Yeah. But we have to take the time, understand what's going on, and let's pick the solution from within. Right. We gotta, basically you want to be the change you want to see.
Absolutely.
And that comes from Gandhi.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So, instead of pointing fingers, they say when you point a finger, you got 3 pointing back at you. Right. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. Right. And that's cute. Ice Cube. Shout out to Ice Cube.
So yeah, I mean, I think that, this is all about, like, we promote love on this podcast, and this is all about love and connection. Right. And I think that, just connecting on a deep personal level with someone outside of your race, if you're having issues or you've never been around black people, right. You might need to make an effort if you feel like you have some, because like I said, you may not even know that you have these biases. Right. They may be unconscious. And for a lot of people, they are. Right. And there's a lot of towns in America, with white people being the majority, that they never experience a black person. Right. And so now when we travel overseas, like when I studied abroad in Spain, and there was a lot of people that were just really curious. They were very curious about me. They didn't know, they just never really had, that much experience, even though there's a lot of Africans that have migrated to Spain and were at the time that I was there.
But you was an African American.
I was an African American, so that was still a little bit different. And the town that I studied in was a very small town, so they didn't see very many black people coming through there. And so the cutest thing happened. I was with a host family, and they had a grandson, and he would come over, and he called me La Niña de Chocolate, and that's
Hey.
the girl of chocolate.
Hey.
And, and he would pretend to, bite me and, La Niña de Chocolate. And I just thought it was the cutest thing. Of course, it's not, it's very easy not to be upset with him because he's a little baby. He was like 5 years old or something like that.
Right.
But, he really didn't know. He just never touched a black person.
Right.
And so I'm happy that I had he would sit in my lap and we watched TV together. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy that, I was able to give him that experience.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Of being around a black person. Another quick funny thing he did. We were watching TV and everything's in Spanish, but he saw, what is it? The woman with the fruit basket on her head.
The door, Shakita Banana.
Yes, I don't know her name. Yeah. But yeah, he saw a commercial of her and he turned to me and said, "Is that your mother?" in Spanish, because and I just burst out and started laughing. That is the cutest thing ever. Like, no, that's not my mother, but I understand why you would ask that,
Right.
So super cute. But anyways, it's about connection. And getting to know one another and understanding that we are all people and that we all basically want the same things, So yeah, I just wanted to say that. But
and I want to throw this in there since we telling stories. I didn't tell this one earlier, but some of us are oblivious of what's going on both sides, right? Some people don't understand racism on both sides. It's some black people that don't understand racism, right? And I know when I was I was younger, I was old enough to go to clubs, so I was probably at least 21 or so, and went in this club. Now I understand racism, been through a lot, right? But went to this club dancing. Now the club was in Memphis and it had 3 levels, right? It wasn't level 2 because it's on that 2 level, but it was a different club on Beale Street. And so going to the club, I went to this top level, and this top level is typically, so the first level is live band, second level is kind of like where the black people are, with the crunk music, and so I jump back and forth from that level because it's really crowded on the second level, but the third level is a little bit more spaced out, a little bit more like a Vegas style club feel. So I jumped back and forth from there. And so when I was at the top level, this particular girl, a white girl, I don't know what was wrong with her. Something was wrong with her, but I was dancing or whatever and, vibing, and she wanted me to move out her way. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? We're in a club. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to dance on her. I'm doing my own thing, but she wanted me to move out her way. And I'm like, no, I'm not moving anywhere. This is not your club. This is a free dance floor. You know what I'm saying? But little did I know, she went to go tell the security guard, and security guard came to me and didn't ask me any questions. He just said, "Come with me." And so I was like, okay. And so, so I go over there and I'm assuming it had something to do with her. And he escorted me literally out of the club. Now I didn't pay good money and all this good stuff, bought a drink or two, and I'm just having a good time. But I get escorted out the club, right? So on my way out of the club, I'm still clueless of what's going on. I see her talking to an officer, right? He's a white officer. And so I could have easily went left and went on down Beale Street, went to Wet Willie's, go somewhere else, right? Have a good time. But I was like, well, this is a situation. I want to, get this rectified because who knows? They got cameras. They might, who knows why it happened? I don't know, right? So let me go over here. So I go to, hey, what seems to be the problem, officer, right? and she was like, that's him. And she's crying and all this hysteria. And I'm like, what is wrong with her? And so he's trying to get me to apologize to her for grabbing her, for fondling her. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to apologize for something I didn't do. It was like, dude, just apologize, man. Just say you did it, apologize, and we can move on from this and you can go on about your business. And I'm like, sir, I cannot apologize for something I didn't do because I don't know what he's about to do. Officer could be tricking me to say, hey, you admitted it, and boom, I go down for a sexual assault charge, right?
Right.
No. So I didn't apologize. And so here she comes. She said some other girls came out, some of her friends, and she said, well, we got witnesses. And I'm like, well, I got my friends here too, which some of my friends was white. And I'm saying, well, I got witnesses right there. Well, they're witnesses. They can tell you, but he never took their statements. He only took her friend's statements. I'm like, but my friends are right there, right? And so he put me in the car. He put me in a cop car, never read me my rights. So I'm thinking we just finna go around a corner just to appease to her. And, I go on about my business. He took me to the police station and I went to jail off of something I did not do. And that's when I knew, okay, this is crazy. You can literally go to jail for nothing. So again, I was not read my rights. I didn't know what I was going to jail for. Didn't know what I was charged. Nothing. Then come to find out, hours later, I found out I was charged with. They tried to put me down for something else, but then they changed it to public intoxication. And I'm like, really? That's what. And I'm dressed up too. I had a tie on, a vest. I'm not out here, big T-shirt, jersey, and nothing like that. I'm standing, I'm dressing the part. But you still discriminate against me because of the color of my skin, right? And I literally had to sit in that jail cell all night long until my mom had, and my stepdad, they bailed me out, and that was unfortunate. It was embarrassing, and it hurt my feelings because it's like, dang, I didn't do that. I did everything you're supposed to do as a citizen. Like I made good grades. I was very, very respectful to all people. Yes, sir. No, sir. I went to the military, served for my country, fought in the wars, for my country. And it's like, you still treat me like nothing, like lower than a dog. Right. And so that's when I knew. I said, okay, this is not right. This is like, you hear the stories, but when it really happens to you and you did not do anything, it's literally men and women. They're in prison for nothing. They did nothing. Because, how do I know that? Because they did it to me. And if it wasn't because my parents, who knows what would have happened with that situation. So basically what happened with it, they end up dropping the case, right? And it was swept under the rug. But it's like, no, I still had that experience. Right. No, I still was
traumatized.
Yes, you still took me without my consent. You imprisoned me for nothing. You literally stole me. You stole me from my life for a few hours. Right. And that's not right. Yeah. Nobody should go through that.
Yeah. And again, I think that's why it's definitely important for people to listen to stories like that, because if you never experienced anything like that, because a lot of times when white people are questioned or when we try to tell them that these sort of things are happening, it's just like, oh, they're making it up, or they just so some of these videos that we're seeing now, understand that every time you see a video like that's happened again without the footage, right? Like exactly. just imagine how many times that this was happening before video cameras, and these are the ones that we know of, right? And so this reminds me of, we didn't mention this in the beginning, but this was another big deal for me. Was the white woman in the Central Park who was accusing the black man of just blatantly lying on him, knowing that what the history of this is, of police officers coming to and arrest the black man is actually very dangerous, right?
So for people that didn't see the video, could you just give it quickly?
He was the president of the Bird Watcher Club, and they were in.
I can't knock him. Yeah. Hey, I might want to watch some birds later on.
So there's a portion of Central Park apparently that you are supposed to have your dogs on the leashes.
And Central Park is a huge park. Huge.
So this portion, they're supposed to keep the dogs on the leash. And he was telling this white woman who had her dog off the leash that she was supposed to, please put the dog on the leash. And, it just kind of goes to like this superiority complex that a black person can't tell you what to do or enforce the law in any way. Because, because I'm just like, why else would she get so upset about that? If he told me to do that, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know, thank you for telling me. I don't want to get in trouble. I want to abide by the law. Right. So anyway, she gets all upset, and he starts filming in a moment where she's telling him to stop recording her, and that if she was going to call the police and tell the police that there was an African American man that was threatening my life. And then, like, as she's on the phone, it kind of sounds like maybe they were kind of confused as to why she was calling, or maybe they were questioning her too much, because toward the end of the video, she starts to get very irate. Yeah. Very, like, oh my God, he's an African American man.
She accidentally choking the dog out.
Yeah.
The dog is making noises. You hear all that as a dispatcher. Come on, you like, this is real, guys.
Yeah.
Go out there, and you setting that tone, and it's like, nah, that she weaponizing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with that because everything else has been going on, but she definitely needs to be charged with filing a false report, because it was totally a false report, and that's not fair. Like, she needs to be charged with filing a false report. That's a crime. You need to be charged with that,
right?
Because that could have went all the way left really fast,
and we know it happens, all the time.
Yeah, so that's just very triggering. There's a lot of history of white women, falsely accusing black men,
right?
And men getting thrown in jail for years
Rape.
And years. Yeah, because there was this documentary, I think it was called Brian Banks. I haven't watched it yet, but it was about this, football star that
real quick, and just to say, for the lady that was in Central Park, in the comments I was reading, it was another Asian lady was saying, I see her all the time in Central Park with her dog off the leash, and I try to tell her, and she ignores me.
Yeah.
So she
just got a complex.
She just does that.
Yeah. She just don't want to be told what to do. So yeah, he was I can't remember which sport it was. It may have been football, but he was accused of rape, and I don't know if he was going to college or if he was in college. I didn't watch his documentary. I need to watch it. I really want to. But the gist of it is he was falsely accused of rape by a white woman, and of course she was believed, and his whole life was just, took a turn. He was supposed to be, probably would have went to the NFL or something.
Right.
And whole life would have been different. But because of that accusation, the false accusation, his career is taken away from him. So yeah, it's real. But that's, like I said, this is a reason why, people who feel like racism doesn't exist, or,
stop it.
It's important for you to listen and really, really listen to these stories that black people are telling you. We're not making it up. These things happen. And I know that it's hard for you to fathom because it's never happened to you.
Right.
That's never happened to me. Well, You're not black,
Right. Torrey Hunter, for example, just happened not just over the weekend. Torrey Hunter is a baseball player. He's actually from Arkansas, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But a black baseball player, very Minnesota Twins, I believe he played for. But anyway, he lives in a very nice area. Obviously, he's a baseball star, so he's a millionaire, and his alarm went off. Which people who have alarms in your house, sometimes they go off, on accident. So the police was called out, and when they saw him, they drew his gun. They drew guns on him, and he was like, "No, I live here. I'm Torrey Hunter. I have my ID." And they literally followed him up the stairs with this gun. He said it wasn't pointed on him. They had it down while he was going up the stairs, and they had to check his identity. And once they finally checked his identity, then they say, "Oh man, I love the Twins, man. I hope y'all have a great season this year." And it's like, but why do you have to draw your guns on me? Why you got to even touch your gun? Mm-hmm. Where's the threat? Right. The threat is, this man has black skin. Right. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's not fair. Right. It's not fair. It's not right. And things got to change.
Yeah. So, like I said, one of the things that we're saying is that maybe if you just connect with us, then you won't be so afraid. I think it was in Texas, there was this thing where they had, the cops playing basketball with the, black boys, and just a way to connect,
Right.
And to just recognize that, these people are just, people.
Right.
So,
exactly.
we understand that even white people may be experiencing a lot of despair and a lot of grief right now, because, you know, the white people who are not racist are, you know, they're frustrated and ready for this to be over too, and they don't understand. So, you know, we appreciate it, but we just kind of wanted to leave you all with a few ways that maybe you can deal with, you know, your grief. I read the Target statement response to the to the to the riots and things, and they said they were planning to turn their pain into purpose. I really like that. I don't know if they were the first people that said that, but basically channel your energy for good, you know. Let's just be proactive about, you know, making a change, help the helpers, right? Like I said, everybody can't be on the front lines protesting, but there's plenty of things that you can do. Colin Kaepernick and others, many others, are setting up funds to pay legal fees for protesters who get arrested. So maybe you can just donate, you know.
Yes,
money.
Please donate.
Yeah, because that's a big. I shouldn't say just donate. Like that's
Please
a big
donate.
deal, right? You know, hey, people need water. You can do the caretaking sort of responsibilities, bring food, you know, just use whatever your talents are, your gifts and talents for the cause. Right now, you know, we're using our podcast, you know, as a form of resistance and our, you know, standing with this cause.
Right.
Definitely time for doing some self-care. There is a doctor named Dr. Candace Nicole. I believe it was in 2016. She came out with a meditation called Black Lives Matter meditation for healing and trauma. I listened to it. It was 17 minutes long and I thought it was great. It's a guided meditation. So, you know, just sit down, listen to that, listen to the affirmations that she's speaking. And I definitely felt a lot better. You know, seek mental health assistance if you feel, I mean, we don't feel bad. Like it's like this is very traumatizing. This is not normal. Right. So, yeah, seek mental health assistance. Don't turn to hate. You know, we just love all people. Like I said, we promote love on this podcast. So we love all people. Right. And I don't have any hatred toward white people at all. You know, like Jason said earlier, it's just people.
We don't like the ones that are hateful. We don't like, and that's people across the board.
Yeah, because, you know, like I said, people is whether or not that person is being hateful or not. Right.
Right.
So, you know, yeah.
And I also wanted to check out Blackout Day 2020, hashtag Blackout Day 2020. Calvin, he set everything up with that. You know, T.I.'s been pushing it, so they talking about doing a Blackout Day so we could not spend money on this particular day. And the particular day is July the 7th. They're saying do not spend any money. You know, and if you're gonna spend some money, spend it with black-owned businesses, and that's to show support. All right, so I understand. You know, like I said, we have some other races that's listening. If you want to support this cause, like I said, we're giving you options to support. So you too can not spend your money and only spend it in a black community to help support this cause, to help stop this situation, to put a pause to this situation.
Absolutely. You know, keep organizing, keep mobilizing, like what Jason is saying. You know, there's just so many things that need to be done, changing policies, you know, keep being elected for political office, keep becoming police officers, become entrepreneurs, but mainly, you know, just focus on the progress that we have made as a people and use that to keep pushing, right?
Right.
For the white allies, basically, like we were saying earlier, educate yourself, identify and unlearn any biases that you might have. You can start, you know, if you're just wondering what to do, you can start simply by making a change in your household. Place yourself in environments with, you know, more diverse people. If you have children, make sure they experience diversity. That could just be with books and toys, you know what I mean?
Right.
If you got a daughter, you know, and you're white, give your daughter some white dolls, some black dolls, some Mexican dolls.
Switch
you know?
it up.
Switch it up.
Cause we got white dolls and black dolls.
Exactly.
At one point, those only dolls we could get is the white dolls.
Right. Exactly.
Know?
So yeah, I mean, why not? You know, that's what the world looks like. Have a conversation with your white counterparts, and if you hear them making racist remarks, stop them in your tracks, right?
Right.
In their tracks.
Ask them a story about, some injustices. I guarantee you 90% of them have a story, so you can get a better perspective.
Right. And then, your black friends and coworkers and, possibly your employees, we're having a hard time.
Right.
So I think it would be nice to call them and just tell them, you acknowledge what is happening with them, the pain that you can't understand it, of course, but, you acknowledge the pain that we might be feeling, or probably we are feeling. I'm going to say we are feeling, and that, you're standing with us, right? I think that'd be nice. I think sometimes people are afraid to reach out because they don't really know what to say.
Right.
But I think you can just, if one of my white friends want to call me, they can just say, hey, I love you. I see what's happening. I'm sorry that it's happening. And just acknowledge that this is happening in my world.
Exactly.
And that you're standing with me. I'm good with that.
And also you can share the podcast.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You can share this episode. You can, if you want to help without, putting money up or stuff like that, you can, like I said, just share the message. And this is an episode where I think that hopefully you was able to receive our perspective the way that we see it. And just like I said, share it. Share it. If you love it, if you agree with it, if you think more people need to hear it on both sides, share it.
And quick message to the cops, the police officers. We want to thank you for your service.
Yes.
And, the good cops, right?
Yes.
We love you. And please speak up when you see injustice taking place. Please hold the men and women accountable who do not value us. Right. Jason just showed me an article. What is it, Jason?
In some cities, police officers join protesters marching against brutality.
Yeah.
Right. So, they're people. They're people too.
Right.
Right. They have a job to do. Yeah. Right. That's how they're feeding their family. But they're putting that on the line because they believe in this. Right. So you got to give them some credit. All police officers not bad. If you feel that way, you're just as bad as a racist person.
Right.
Right.
You're making a blanket assumption.
You can't do that. Right. Just like you don't want them to do the same to us. So
yes, I just think that's awesome. So again, we love you. We appreciate you. Right. And lastly, again, addressing the beautiful black people out there. I just want to just say that we're such a resilient people, and we're amazing, and we've overcome so much and endured so much, and we're still, just some of the most loving, kind people that I ever met, most forgiving people, So, I just want to say, keep your head up, and you are strong, and you're valued, and you are deeply and immensely loved.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I pray for our life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness for my people.
Yes, ma'am. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, that was our show for today. Like I said, if you like it or loved it, share it. Tell somebody. If you got any questions, email us at loveologypodcast@gmail.com. I believe it's going to be a nice live discussion coming up on Wednesday about this. And when we do a live discussion every Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. You go to Facebook, and we'll talk all about this. So we want to hear your input on this. We want to hear your perspective. This is ours. Let's hear from you.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's join us on Facebook at that set time. And again, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch y'all next week.
All right.